Hello and welcome to the 5th episode in this Improve Your Chess series. And today I'm going to discuss how to trade material in chess. So how do you go about trading off pieces? Do you just go in for a wild attack? Or are you more of a positional player and take your time? Well, in this game, in this ongoing series, I've been playing a friend of mine who's a casual chess player. We play a game and then I try and help him improve. So I had the white pieces versus John with the black pieces, and looks like, I don't know, I had a decent game in this one, 95.8% accuracy versus his 83.8. So let's see how this game went. It looked like I had three great moves. The bad moves, inaccuracy. I had one, John had two, he had two mistakes. But other than that, he didn't play too bad with an 83.8% accuracy rating. So let's see what happened. I'll turn on the analysis so we can see what the computer will reveal. All right. So I played d4. I've been trying to play the Jabava London and improve at that, so that's what I'm going for here. And John plays this e6 move. Normally you would want to play e4 here and then maybe go for a French defense possibly. But I play this knight to c3 and I want to play bishop to f4 to set up the Jabava London. And even here, I probably should still play e4 to take control of the center. So John attacks here, going after this pawn, but at the moment it's protected by the queen. And bishop to f4. And even the computer says this is an inaccuracy, that it would be better to just take control of the center with e4. But we have a Jabava London set up here with knight on c3, d4, bishop to f4, and then I'm going to move this pawn up to e3 to protect the bishop. So John plays a move here that is an inaccuracy, not the best move. You don't want to bring your queen out early because it can become a target. Now here I see why this was brought out early. He just wanted to attack my bishop and this pawn as well. But e3 covers both of those problems, protects the bishop and the pawn here. So that's what I played. It looks like knight to f6 instead would have been better. So just developing another knight here would have been a better move. Then what should I play? It's recommending a3 to prevent a pin on my knight to the king. But back to the game. Queen to f6 is played, so I play e3 here, although the recommendation is to ignore that and just go after this pawn here on c7. Interesting, but these moves are pretty close, so I just stick with the Jabava London setup instead of going after this pawn, because that would exchange a pawn on the flank for one of my central pawns. I avoid that. And now we have e5, the first mistake of the game. So we'll dig into this, see why it's a mistake. The best move here is just to capture. So when you're trading material, since this video is about how to trade material in chess, you usually want to start with the lowest value piece first. And why should I give up my bishop pair by attacking with the bishop, capturing with the bishop first? Then he could just retake and I lose my bishop pair and he keeps his. So d takes e5 is a better move. Now what should have been played here? It looks like bishop to b4 is recommended, just pinning this knight, which would also prevent the knight from jumping here and attacking that queen. So, that would have been the best move. And then I should develop the knight to e2 in case they capture. if they capture my knight, I can just recapture with mine. All right, back to what happened in the game. We have this e5 move. So when you have a choice between attacking, or excuse me, capturing with a more valuable piece like the bishop or a less valuable piece like the pawn, in general, it's better to capture first with the lowest value piece. So, and the computer did say that this was the best move. So I capture, attacking the queen, and now the knight recaptures, the best move, keeping material even. But now this allows knight to d5 or knight to b5, threatening a fork up here. So I decide to play knight to d5 because that, and the computer now is saying that's best because that attacks the queen and threatens this fork of the king and the rook here. So the best move, and good job by John finding the best move here, putting his queen in a position where the knight is pinned by this bishop, but it does protect the pawn here and prevents me from forking king and rook. So the game continued with knight to f3, a developing move. So if you have a pinned piece, a good strategy is to add more pressure to the piece that's pinned. So I can't do it with a pawn, so the next best thing is to bring this knight in, develop the knight, which is a slower piece, so it's better to develop them early. And the computer says this is best. So now, here a mistake was made with this move, just trying to defend the pinned piece. So, this move makes sense, I guess. It's understandable why this was made, but we'll see why that's a mistake. Apparently, it would be better to counterattack. And if you've been watching this series, you may have noticed that usually my friend John likes to counterattack instead of, just playing defense usually. So here, it would have been better to counterattack my knight. And then the best thing to do, let's see. Apparently, the best move is c4. Interesting. So we could take a quick look at that. c4, then capture. Then bishop takes e5. Attacking the queen, queen over to b6, and then capture here, c takes d5. Then we have queen to a5 check, but yeah, anyway, the game could have gone on like this, but white would have an edge. So let's get back to what actually happened. After f6, this is a mistake. Better would have been to counterattack. But at this point, white is already ahead and black is in trouble because the best move is to trade material here. Now, how do you go about doing it? It looks like the best move, and this is what I ended up playing, was to attack with the knight. Because once again, why give up my bishop pair? If I'm going to capture a piece here, it's better to capture with the slower knight, keep my bishop pair. So I capture. Now, here, the best move apparently is knight to e7. Second best is to capture. And of course, that's what my opponent did. John captures on e5. But now, because that f-pawn is moved, and it's usually not a good idea to move your f-pawn until your king is safe, well, now we have an attack. So the best move is queen to h5, which was what is played. And now my opponent ends up blocking with the queen. So, that move runs into trouble. It looks like g6 might be a way to go, but then I could just capture this pawn in the center. And then there might still be a threat here, possibly of forking. But let's see what happened. We have this. Now, here the best move, obviously, is just to capture with a check in the center. And that's probably what I should have done. But I figured, well, I'm going to just simplify the position and go into a winning endgame. So I decided to capture. Now, if you're going to trade material, try to do so where it leaves your opponent with some weakness. So I capture, and now we have this recapture. So what did that accomplish? Well, it left my opponent with doubled isolated pawns here. And another reason I did this is because I'm about to go ahead in material. So I immediately fork, which is best. And now I'm attacking the king and the rook. So we have king to d8, the best move. And now I just capture a pawn, so I'm ahead by +2 at this point. And the best thing to do would have been d6 here. But, sometimes it's hard to figure out the best moves when you're under attack and there's a lot going on. The king's running around already. So here we go. As I mentioned before, John is usually a fan of counterattacking, but he kind of did it in the wrong way. He went for this bishop check, and all I have to do, and it is the best move, is play c3 and block that. So then now that bishop is under attack along with the rook over here. So it would have been better to play d6 because now once I capture here, my opponent would be able to at least get some material out of it. Something like this. I would go here, and then by counterattacking, they could capture here. So in this trade of material, it would have been better because I'm ahead by +4, but this this knight could end up being trapped over here. So what do I do then? The king could try and I guess move the bishop and then start running over here after this knight. But instead of getting into that, let's finish what happened in the rest of the game. So we have a check. I just block. Now the bishop and the rook are under attack. But the bishop retreats back, attacking my knight. And that knight's going to move anyway. So I pick off the rook. And I'm ahead by +7 at this point. So knight is developed, and we have this. A capture of a free pawn here. So what would have been better in this position? Apparently, well, let me go back one more. What would be best for John to play here? Knight to f6, which would avoid the capture of this pawn. So anyway, the knight develops. I pick off a pawn. Now I'm ahead by +8. Here we have an attack on the rook. So when you're thinking about trading material, before you move, always look and see what your opponent's move just did. Are there any attacks on the king, the pieces, the pawns? These are things to look at when you're trying to figure out how to trade material in chess. So I'm attacking this rook. So, obviously the rook is more valuable and you're behind in material. You don't want to just keep trading down more material. But it's, not looking good. Now the rook is left open. So, of course, I go after the more valuable piece, even if it means giving up my bishop pair. Now here, once again, John tried to counterattack. He should have just captured this bishop here. Because, even though he gets the bishop for a rook, it's not the best trade. It's better than what happens in the game. He tries to counterattack here, and it allows this piece to escape. Because, if he would have immediately captured that bishop, then he could have gone after this knight, which was trapped anyway and not going anywhere because of this bishop here. Although, maybe he saw that I could attack the bishop, and then the bishop would have to retreat. So that may explain why he made that move. All right. The game continues with the king going after the knight because if I capture, then this bishop could have captured. So the game continues with my bishop centralizing, preparing a possible escape hatch, and we have this threat of b4. So the game just continues with knight attacking my bishop. I just trade off material because I'm already ahead here. So we just trade down. I thought, well, I'll move this here, trade even more material, and I'll just end up being ahead. So John snatches a pawn, but it allows me to attack, and then once he moves away, I'll be able to pick off this pawn possibly, unless he protects it. So instead, he picks off the knight, I pick off his bishop, and now he does protect this, but I'm able to move up here and chase this bishop away. So attack, retreat, and now the pawn will fall. So the game just continues with me snatching a pawn. And so, at this point, I'm just ahead in material. So I can start going after the king. And the end of the game just went in this manner. He throws in a check here. My king just moves up to the center of the board. Now the rook is under attack. So we go after this pawn, and the king protects. So I just double up, and now this is kind of an inaccuracy. What did they prefer? Bishop to e6 instead, because now we just start moving this pawn forward. But what would have been better here? Rook at 1 up to d5 would have been even better, to just activate this rook even more by bringing it up here, maybe getting ready for some, to capture this pawn or check. But the end of the game went with the pawn moving forward here. And so after this capture, I'm able to fork the bishop and king here. So capture, and now we have an attack on my bishop, but I just protect, and it's looking bad for black. So the game just ended with a mate here with these rooks and bishop. All right, well, what can we learn from trading pieces? Basically, if you're going to trade material, start with the lowest valued piece first. The majority of the time, calculate a little bit, because there's always exceptions to the rule. And also try to make even trades. Don't give up your rook for somebody's knight or bishop. And also try to make sure that you calculate or count the number of pieces being traded. So if you have 2 attackers and your opponent has 3 defenders, they're covered. But if you have 2 attackers and they have only 1 defender, then your extra force should be victorious. So, I'm going to wrap this video up. In this series, I'll go over this stuff more, and this is the 5th video in the series. So feel free to leave any comments that you would like. Like and subscribe if you haven't already to support the channel. But stay tuned for future videos in this series where I play my friend John as he's trying to learn and improve. So thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.